Hey guys, so before the video begins, we just want to let you know that me and Alaska, we're kind of, traveling somewhere right now. Something called the Fusion Verse or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, we'll be gone for quite a while now, but we did leave this recording for you for the time being. So yeah, enjoy the video, and hopefully we'll be back soon. Take care. What's up, my Star Chasers? So yeah, 2022 had a decent amount of good movies. And so I want to share my thoughts in the brand new year of 2023, my thoughts on my favorite movies, my personal favorite movies of 2022. Now, before I begin, there's two things that I want to mention. First, I'll be starting with my honorable mentions. Now, just because these movies are not on my top 10 list doesn't mean you shouldn't go see these movies. You should definitely still go see these movies. Even if they're not on my top 10 list, you guys should definitely go see these. Every single one that I mention, even if they're not my personal favorite, they're still worth mentioning. Okay? That would be Top Gun Maverick, Downton Abbey, A New Era, Elvis, Minions, The Rise of Guru, Lightyear, Thor, Love and Thunder, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Bubble, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, Violent Night, the quintessential quintuplets movie, Weird, the Al Yankovic Story, Dragon Ball Super, Superhero, Bullet Train, The Bad Guys, Fortune Favor Lady Nikoku, and Teasing Master Takagi-san, the movie. Once again, just because these movies are not on my top 10 list doesn't mean that they're not worth seeing. They're still definitely worth seeing. And of course, you're probably saying right now, how dare you not put, Top Gun Maverick or Everything Everywhere All at Once on your top 10 list? These were like one of the best. Like I said, they're still worth seeing. They're just not personal favorites of mine. But like I said, you guys should definitely go see these movies. Now, number two. I'm going to be breaking some rules with this top 10 list. The reason for that is because I've noticed this is a kind of a pattern that does happen a lot, but this is something that I want to mention. A lot of movies that are from other countries usually don't get a theatrical release in the United States. Heck, a lot of movies usually don't come until the year after. And yeah, a lot of these movies were released in 2021, but didn't get a United States release until 2022. And it almost seems kind of unfair because these movies did get widely released in the United States, and many people saw them and want to talk about them and mention them, which they can, but at the same time it feels like they don't belong on these lists because they were released in another country in 1 year prior. But you know what? It kind of feels unfair. So you know what? I am counting movies that have officially gotten a United States release and widely released to the public in the United States. Now, of course, this all depends. For example, there are some movies that did get screened in film festivals by the end of 2021 and did get a United States release, but those film festival releases usually are for reviewers or people passing by, just to see, to get people, getting, the reception out, sometimes it's usually test screenings or some early screenings, These are things that I feel like only slightly a small amount of people get. I am talking about at least a decent amount of theater chains releasing them widely in the United States. So that's what I'm particularly counting. And of course, there are also another rule that I did break technically, but like I said, this is my personal top 10 list, and like I said, they are counted. If they were released in the United States in 2022 and got a theatrical release that was widely available for anyone to go see, then these count as 2022 films. And if you have anything to say about that,
go fuck yourself.
Okay, let's begin. This is my personal top 10 films of 2022. Number 10, Lyle Lyle Crocodile. Now, I wasn't expecting to go see this movie, like, at all. I mean, I saw the poster of this, and I'm just like, it looks kind of like a generic kids movie. But then I saw the first trailer, and then I saw pretty much, kind of very catchy music. And then when I saw that the music was done by the people who did The Greatest Showman, and even though The Greatest Showman wasn't really the greatest film out there, and definitely wasn't that great of a movie, it had some pretty damn catchy songs. So I'm just like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna see this movie and just enjoy the soundtrack out of this. It's probably gonna be a simple, cute little children's film, but it's gonna have a nice little soundtrack. I mean, I wouldn't really want to just spend money on just the soundtrack alone. I want to see if there's any kind of value to it. And being a reviewer, I had to watch it. And I was kind of surprised of how, how a basic plot, but surprisingly a decent little family film. This is actually worth going to go see it was worth going to go see in theaters and even worth owning because, it's actually a decent little family film that, is heartwarming and actually has some pretty nice songs from Shawn Mendes. Like I said, some people might look at this and be like, I'm not really a Shawn Mendes fan. If you're not a Shawn Mendes fan, that's fine. The songs, I have to admit, are pretty catchy songs because they were stuck in my head for quite a while, and also even the movie itself, it actually is a very nice little movie. And if the songs and some parts of the memorable moments of the movie left some impact on me, it deserves to be on the top 10 list. And honestly, it's been sticking around for me that I'm actually going to see if I can read the original book or even just watch the little short that it was based on. So yeah, next on the list. Number 9, Glass Onion. So this is a sequel to, of course, Knives Out by Rian Johnson. And this was released theatrically and both on Netflix. It is still on Netflix, and you should definitely go see this movie because this is possibly one of the best sequels to a movie I've ever seen in 2022 because let me tell you, okay, to be fair, it kind of does do similar things like the first movie in a sense of how it's filmed and how the mystery goes out. Kind of like it's kind of very uses the same formula in a sense. However, the characters are different and also the story is different and definitely the ending is very different. Honestly, I do love the actors in this movie, especially, the actor who played Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm sorry if I don't remember his name, but understandably so, he did really good in this film. I was actually surprised. And, of course, Mr. Bond himself, of course, Daniel Craig, was pretty good in this movie too, even though he had this very ridiculous accent in this movie. He surprisingly played another great detective like he did in the first movie. And like I said, I love how the story goes down. I love how the mystery goes down. Like I said, it kind of has a similar formula to like the first Knives Out, but honestly, it's still pretty good because like I said, different story, different characters, different location. It's different enough that it actually is a pretty damn good follow-up and you guys should definitely go see. It's probably one of the best sequels ever made, in my honest opinion. Now on to the next one. At number 8, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Now, this is a film that's long overdue in the making. The first Puss in Boots movie honestly is a decent flick. It's not bad. It's just not as impactful, obviously, when it came out. I remember when people first saw the movie, people kind of call it the real Zorro sequel because, Legend of Zorro pretty much sucked. so compared to The Mask of Zorro, and being voiced by Antonio Banderas, people called this the true Zorro sequel, rather than Legend of Zorro being the actual sequel. But most people liked it because, well, Antonio Banderas plays this really funny, really great character, Puss in Boots. So of course now we have this sequel that has come years later. I mean, years later. I mean, it's been a while since the first movie. So obviously most people thought it was going to bomb because, it's a sequel years and years later from the first movie, and usually that's the case. But when I start to think about it, Bill and Ted's third movie, was actually really, really good. Even that film was, years later. And I feel like, and Top Gun Maverick, years later was actually pretty good. So maybe this film could be pretty good. And let me tell you, it is really good. I mean, the animation, the comedy, the action, just the overall, oh my gosh, this film is a marvel. I mean, I want to see this film again in the theaters. I'm going to go see this film again in theaters, or if I don't have the time, probably watch it at home. But still, it's worth going to go see in the theaters multiple times. You should definitely, I am telling you, definitely go check this out because it's possibly one of the, if not the best animated film of 2022. So yeah, definitely go see this, guys, because it's worth it. Number 7, Laid Back Camp the movie, or as in the original, Yudo Camp the movie. So this was a film that technically did get a limited release in Anime NYUC, where it was screened there for fans of the series, though I did not get a chance to go. Actually, my friend, my friend B-Degs actually went to go see this movie, and he actually had a really good time, but I kind of waited till it was released on Crunchyroll. But to be fair, it was pretty worth the wait. I love Laid Back Camp / Yudo Camp. It's a very chilling, relaxing time, It has very memorable characters, and I definitely can't wait for season 3. Though, of course, what's confusing about this is that this movie takes place when these characters are adults. However, season 3 takes place when the characters are still in high school. So, technically, this movie is a kind of like a sequel to season 3, even though season 3 hasn't come out yet. And technically season 3 is a prequel or a midquel of, the movie, which you could argue the movie technically counts as the finale of the series. So when season 3 comes out, it's going to be confusing. I hope season 3 explains all this. But yeah, so continuing on, this movie was pretty damn good. I mean, we once again get back to our campers who are still relaxing as teenagers in the beginning of the movie, but then of course years go by and they're kind of in their 20s. They're basically adults in these movies, and they all realize that they have their own lives. They can't really hang out with each other much anymore, or camp with each other anymore. But then they realize that there's this opportunity to make a camp sanctuary for everyone. So in a way, it's kind of an excuse for these characters to hang out with each other again. And I'm actually kind of surprised because there's not only some good moments, some good character moments, character development, but also some good comedy, but there's actually kind of drama in this movie. Like, I'm not even joking, there's actual legit depressing drama in Laid Back Camp. Not to say that the series never had that, but it was mostly minor. It was mostly a comedy. It was mostly a slice of life comedy, but this is the first time I feel, because since the characters are grown up, they decide to add a little bit more to the story than just your regular camping trip. The movie, to be fair, definitely was worth seeing. I did like how it ended. Honestly, it was a relaxing but also kind of pure, just wholesome ending to the series. Which, technically it's not over. Season 3 is coming out, but like I said, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, if you're a laid-back camp, Euro camp fan, you should definitely check this out. Number 6, One Piece Red. Now, I've already did like a review of this movie and my thoughts upon it in my anime channel as well as on my video on TikTok. So I will say right now, I won't get into too much detail, but I will say this. This is possibly one of the best One Piece film that has come in a long time. It's technically a musical slash action movie. I mean, if you're not that, to be fair, to watch this movie, you kind of really need to go deep into the One Piece, manga or watch the anime, depending on what you want to do. I highly recommend that you read the manga more than watch the anime. Not to diss the anime. The anime is good. It's just that at some point the anime kind of, distance itself, takes a lot of filler, and because it's kind of like a little bit of a mess with all that filler. But I hear that the anime surprisingly have gotten better ever since they got to the Wano arc, which I still haven't gotten to because, like I said, I mentioned that I'm still on the Dressrosa arc. And so, yeah, but to be fair, you don't need to be that deep into One Piece. I think you can, like I said, you can go into it while being on where I am right now, the Dressrosa arc, and still enjoy this movie. They kind of have only some characters, but mostly new characters. And we get possibly like one of the best One Piece characters that honestly I feel bad for because she was a friend of Luffy. It's kind of like an extra canon story. And yes, this is canon to the story. The only difference is particularly the ending of the movie, which is non-canon. But this movie was pretty damn good because it was also a musical because one of the main stars of the movie, sings a lot in the movie. Like I said, it is a pretty damn good movie. I don't want to spoil it for you, but for any One Piece fan, this was definitely worth going to go see in the theaters because this was the very first film that I went to go see on my own. Quite literally. Because I kind of came in a time, when I went to go see this movie, I kind of came during a time where I think already most people in my hometown kind of already saw the movie. So when I went into the theater, it was basically barren. And it's not because of the film didn't make any money. The film did make a lot of money, but I'm guessing because most people saw the movie already, that when I went to the theater was basically empty. So I basically was in this theater room, in the giant theater room in the auditorium in the dark, and it's just like, yeah, I'm watching this movie. But I was so I was just so focused on the film that I kind of didn't notice it was kind of creepy around, just me being in the. To be fair, that's fantastic. It's every reviewer's dream not to deal with a lot of the noise or the screaming or that kind of stuff. You should enjoy a film with fans, but with all the noises and the people who misbehave during theater screenings, you should going to go see a movie, so you should respect those. But yeah, this was a kind of new fantastic experience, and yeah, the film is really good. Definitely check it out.
Mega CD 究極兵器メタルソニック最速にして最強のライバル出現がソニックを熱く過激にする過去へ未来へ超音速アクションは時空をも超えたSonic the Hedgehog CD from Mega CD 僕にできること電王ベルト装着ライダーパスをタッチせよ変身ソードフォーム電ガッシャー連結行くぜ俺の必殺技フルチャージデラックス 電王ベルトデラックス電ガッシャー。
Number 5, Official Competition. And yes, this film was technically released in 2021. This is part of my rule breaking. This technically was released in 2021, but wasn't widely released in the United States until 2022. And yeah, you see, I originally wasn't going to go see this movie because I never really heard about it. My brother showed me the trailer of this movie, and I'm just like, it looks kind of funny and stuff. But you know, I wasn't into it. However, he did take me into an indie theater to go see this movie, and it was the best decision ever. This is one of the fucking funniest movies ever made. Like, it is laugh out loud funny. This film is basically about, you know, a kind of head of, you know, a company who basically decides that, you know, hey, I don't know, just to make money, I'm going to make a movie. I'm going to hire this, you know, artistic director and basically make this movie. And so, yeah, and he doesn't even know what the movie's going to be about. He just hires this director, and she decides to make the movie based on one of her favorite books. And of course, we get, you know, and then of course she hires actors who are going to be in this movie. And yeah, it's mostly, most of the movie is just her practicing with these actors on the film, as well as to see if they're even worth being in this movie. And let me tell you, I don't want to spoil anything because this movie is so funny. But I will, for example, at least talk about a moment. There is a moment in this movie where where basically the director decides to try to traumatize the actors. What she does is basically she takes them outside, and then there's a giant crane holding a really heavy giant rock. She asks them to sit down under the rock. There are chairs there, and they want them to perform while also that giant rock is on top of them and hopefully not, you know, gonna squish them. And so they're kind of like anxious. You're just like, you're thinking to yourself, man, like this is kind of intense, you know, like they're under this giant heavy rock that could possibly kill them. So she immediately tries to like direct them, and they're like super nervous. They're clearly traumatized. They feel like they're gonna die. And then once they get out of there, they only found out that the rock is made of styrofoam. That is only a little taste of the comedy of this movie, because this movie's fucking hilarious. Like I said, I laughed my ass off throughout most of this film. This film, like I said, is really funny. You should definitely go check this out. You know, if you can find it, you should go check this out. This was a surprise. I'd never laughed so hard in a long time, you know, when seeing a movie like this in theaters. Everyone in the audience was laughing, and I was laughing. It's a really good movie. Though I do have to warn you, this movie is all in Spanish. It's in Spanish, the movie. However, there were English subtitles, so I can manage to so people can at least watch the movie subbed. Obviously, there's not going to be a dub of this movie, so I understand if you're not a person who likes to read subs, and you know, or you don't, or if you or do not know Spanish, you know, you can enjoy this movie either with or without. Like I said, I mean, you should watch this movie anyway, because even if you don't understand Spanish, or even if you do understand Spanish, you should still definitely go see this movie. But like I said, I understand people prefer dubs, and some people prefer subs, but honestly, you should give the movie a chance. Even if you're not into watching a movie sub, this movie will make you laugh. Like, it will make you laugh. It is so funny. It's worth it. Number 4, Marcel, the Shell with Shoes On. So, okay, once again, kind of breaking the rule. Like I said, this film was released in 2021 in a film festival, but wasn't theatrically released to wider audiences until 2022. So, yes, this counts because I didn't get a chance to see this film until last year, until 2022. And so this film is based upon cute little YouTube shorts that honestly I found kind of adorable. You know, my brother showed this to me. You know, he's just like, you know, this is Marcel the Shell. I'm just like, oh, you know what? These are nice little videos. And so when I find out that they're making basically kind of a documentary, or in a sense a mockumentary of this movie, because you know it makes more sense. It makes more sense that this is a mockumentary because, you know, it involves this cartoony, basically stop motion shell that, you know, basically Marcel the Shell. You know, the movie is basically about Marcel the Shell with his owner, basically the owner filming Marcel the Shell all the time, you know, just documenting, you know, Marcel, and, you know, going around having adventures inside this little house, even sometimes outside. It kind of has a story where Marcel is with his grandmother, you know, with his grandmother, and he discovers that his grandmother might not have too much life in her left. So, in a sense, Marcel kind of senses that and wants to have the best time with her. But at the same time, Marcel is trying to find his family. And the movie gets really, really emotional, like progressively emotional. It starts to kind of break, like it breaks your heart almost. I won't reveal the ending of the movie, nor I will reveal too much of this because honestly, you should go see this movie. It is you guys should just see this movie yourself because it's a really touching, funny, and just overall just a wonderful movie that you should definitely go see. Number 3, Pompo, the Cinephile. So yes, once again, this technically was released in 2021 and even got a United States release in 2021 through a film festival. But, like I said, I didn't make it to the film festival. A lot of people didn't go see it in the film festival, but this was widely released by G Kids in 2022. So yes, I'm counting this movie because I saw this movie in 2022. Now, I do want to make a point here. So, when I went to go see this movie, originally I was going to make a full-on video of this film, but I was dealing with my part-time job, my personal life, and I kind of didn't have time to do the video for the film. So, yeah, I'm here on my top 10 list, so I might as well talk about it. So, of course, Pompo, the Cinephile. Pompo the Cinephile is based upon a manga series of the same name. It involves a young little girl who basically is a producer of this big fictional version of Hollywood, this Hollywood studio. You know, she basically produced one of the biggest B movies or one of the best films in this company. But of course, she has this assistant named Gene who basically is a big time film lover. He loves films. He loves a lot of the film. He mostly grew up with films, so yeah, he's kind of a nervous wreck. He's basically, you know, always not being able to talk as much, but he one day wants to direct his own movie. So of course, Pompo gives him this, you know, little job. Pompo gives this little job to her assistant of editing a trailer for one of her movies, and of course he does a well done job. And of course she has a script for a brand new movie, but instead of hiring her regular director, she decides to hire Gene to direct the movie. And yeah, most of the plot is mostly Gene basically getting nervous, going crazy, wondering like, can I really direct this movie? Can I really edit it the way I want to edit it? Can I really be a good director? There's also a side story as well where this young actress who wants to be in, Pompo's brand new film, and of course, Pompo rejects her at first because she's just too simple. She's not really a professional actress yet. So of course she trains hard with one of Pompo's professional actresses, who at first I kind of thought was going to be, a very mean, kind of, oh, she's a superstar, so she's kind of mean. But no, she's surprisingly a deeper character than I thought. She actually was pretty damn good in this movie. But at the same time, based on the manga series, actually, just to mention, I did read the manga before watching the film. Because, ever since I've read manga, I've started to notice differences between adaptations of both, the manga and the anime. So I've kind of made it kind of like a journey where, or kind of a thing where I would read the manga first, or if there isn't a manga, I sometimes take a chance with the anime, because sometimes anime is based on light novels. I just don't know how to really get into light novels because they're basically kind of more difficult version than books. A kind of a more difficult version of books, so it's kind of hard to read a light novel. It's much more easier to read a manga. But like I said, I've been reading manga before watching the anime or even the anime movie. So yeah, I managed to read the book, and I really do love the Pompo the Cinephile book. It's actually available on Amazon, but I haven't read volume 3 yet. But like I said, this movie only does volume 1 and volume 2. Only does the stories, kind of borrows some. It's basically the story of this movie is volume 1. However, they do borrow elements from volume 2. And they also add a brand new character that was never in the original manga. This is, yeah, so this manga series, is very well, is very well known in Japan. They even have spin-offs of the manga, which still has not gotten a official translation in the United States. I mean, come on. If volume 1, 2, and 3 is selling well on Amazon, then we should have the spin-offs. Come on, we should get the spin-offs of this manga series. I want to read those, for gosh sakes. I want to read those because, let me tell you, the first 2 volumes of Pompo the Cinephile is pretty damn good. They also kind of add a character that was in the movie. They add a character that never was in the original manga. However, the way the story goes in this movie, I have to admit, he fits pretty well in this world and in the story. It's actually pretty damn good, I gotta admit. I have to admit the movie's pretty good. You should definitely go see the movie, but in my recommendation, I feel like you should read the manga first before going to go see this movie, because there are some differences. There's also, and it also has to do with the fact of Pompo, the main star, the title character herself. I feel like she's better in the original story than she is in this movie. So the idea of her character is that she's basically an adult in a little girl's body, because her grandfather has always shown her movies, like every single movie, especially, but for some odd reason not a single kids movie. I guess he doesn't like Disney or something. But to the point, the idea of this character is that she knows everything about how to produce films, how to write stories, and basically how to sell a film. That's her character. She basically is, like I said, an adult in a little kid's body, and she does her job well, and I think she's a very, very awesome character. However, I feel she doesn't have the child side to her in the film. I feel like, they do kind of have a little bit of that, but not in particularly the movie, but more in the manga. To make a point, there is a point in the manga where Jean is trying to send him, in volume 2, Jean is trying to send Pompo the final cut of the movie that he made. And he basically gets up really early in the morning and goes to her office. And when she opens the door, you see her in her pajamas, her little kitty pajamas, and she's still tired. And I feel that represents, because no matter if Pompo is like this professional producer, she's still a kid. Kids need a lot of sleep, and that's understandable. So the fact that this little panel represents who Pompo represents, that yes, Pompo's, an adult mentally, but she's still a little girl. She's still a child. She still needs sleep. She still gets tantrums. She gets a lot of tantrums in the manga. She goes through tantrums when Jean talks to her about like hour long movies. The Longest Day and Titanic. There's this funny panel where she basically burst out into kind of like a tantrum, never wanting to see long ass movies. That's kind of the representation of both the kind of producer, this highly intelligent producer, but also still a little kid. I feel that the manga represented her character more than it did in the movie. In the movie, she does have moments like that, but it never feels like that's the realization. It never feels like she's both mentally an adult, but she's still a little kid. Because, like I said, she still goes through tantrums and she needs a lot of sleep. Like I said, I feel like the manga represented her character more than it did in the movie. Not to say that the movie's bad. This is just one little nitpick that I wanted to mention. And like I said, I still think that the movie is incredibly well made. The directors of this movie should be proud. And actually, during the screening of this movie, there was actually a behind the scenes before this film. And that was a very wonderful experience I got to see when seeing this movie in theaters. Like I said, you should definitely check this movie out. It is worth watching, but like I said, I recommend that you go read the manga first. It is technically the first 3 volumes are available, to get on Amazon, both physically and digitally. So yeah, check them out, and yeah, on to the next one. Number 2, The Fabelmans. So, this is a movie that I just saw recently. It's still technically in theaters right now, in the big chain theaters, or indie theaters. This film was directed by Steven Spielberg. And this is a movie where you could argue it's technically not a biopic. It's more of that. It's basically a film. It's basically about a film where a little kid named Sammy, who grows up with his family, wants to be a film director when he turns older. As time goes on, he starts liking directing little scenes, making movies with his friends and family. But then he's also in the middle of this, family drama, and it starts to get to him, but at the same time, he still has a passion for loving film. And you could argue that this film, even Steven Spielberg mentioned that this film is basically based upon, loosely based upon some events of the story of Steven Spielberg, based upon his life, as a film director. And you could argue a little bit of his life is in this movie. Obviously, it's mostly fiction, but surprisingly, this is technically a fictional story because, Steven Spielberg's, I think what his intention was that he didn't want to make a biopic. I mean, you could argue maybe that's what his intention was, but he's a film director who wants to visually show beautiful arts of film, wants to show beautiful, visual film. He wants to tell a story, but at the same time, a story that, grips the audience, wants the audience to keep watching and just enjoy the adventure, enjoy the story and stuff. And I feel like that's what he did with The Fabelmans. He basically put a little bit of his life in the movie, but also create a fictional story that's very entertaining. Now, here's the thing. When I go see indie films, I usually don't get hooked into the film until like 15, sometimes 20 minutes in. But to be fair, they're still very good movies. It's just, it takes that amount of time for, the movie to, catch my interest. However, with this film, it took me only a few minutes till I was hooked into the movie. It is that good. The movie keeps this momentum of just being interesting, it's fun, you want to follow these characters, you want to follow the story. It's just an overall good movie, and I just saw this like, a few days I saw this a few days ago, and it's a pretty damn good movie. You should, I streamed this movie. It was really good. That's why it's on the number 2 spot, because it's just a really personal good movie. The way that Steven Spielberg visually shows emotion, visually shows dialogue, instead of actually the character saying dialogue, they just visually show their emotions, their feelings. That's what I love about his directing. It's show, don't tell. Okay, so yeah. You should definitely go see this. It's on streaming right now. It's worth going to see. If you love Steven Spielberg, it's worth seeing the film, especially that ending. The ending, pretty damn good. And now, my number 1 favorite film of 2022. You're gonna be shocked. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the movie.
Hey, stop all the gasping in there!
Sorry!
Yeah, I can see so many people just being like, what? So, you think this film is better than Top Gun Maverick, better than Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, better than Everything Everywhere All at Once, Glass Onion, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, and even how you were going crazy over The Fabelmans. You think that this is a better movie? Personally, it's like I said, this is my personal list, and to me, this movie left more of an impact on me. And the reason for that is because, first off, I saw this film on an early screening a day before its theatrical release. And also, I went to go see this with friends, family, and, just people who love Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, obviously, to me, I'm more of a Mario fan than a Sonic fan. And I am hyped up for, a little bit for the Super Mario Brothers movie for Illumination, but still hoping it doesn't turn out bad. I mean, it looks good, but it could be bad too, so I'm kind of nervous, and stuff. But, the first Sonic the Hedgehog movie, not the OVA, just the live-action film, was an okay flick. I felt the problem of that movie was that it was just, it was mostly just Sonic mixing in with human beings. And to be fair, the humans aren't bad. It's just, it just feels like one of those generic movies. But at the same time, I feel is still a good movie that people should go see. It's definitely a decent, video game to movie adaptation. But Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is an overall different level. I mean, the movie focuses mostly on Sonic and his adventures. Most people kind of had an issue that the first movie was just kind of a buddy road trip movie, and I mean, it had references to the games, it had some moments of the games, but it was mostly just Sonic going on a trip with James Marston, or Tom, just going on this adventure, around just trying to escape Dr. Eggman and the police, and obviously Sonic fighting Eggman was honestly the best part of the movie. But the second movie, we get Tails, but we also get Knuckles. But most of the movie's focus is on Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. Most of it is just Sonic traveling the world, traveling, I mean, it's still Earth, but he's traveling into the snowy mountains, the ruins, the beaches, he crashes a wedding, it's stuff that we want to see in a Sonic movie. Him doing cool ass stuff, him saving people, and him just trying to get, of course, the Master Emerald, and him fighting the giant mecha egg robot, It feels like a Sonic the Hedgehog movie. And I think what also is that it feels like its own world. It feels like, Sonic is supposed to be a kid in this movie and not a teenager in this film. But at the same time, he's still likable in this movie. I think Ben Schwartz does a fantastic job playing this character. I mean, he just nails this role. I also like the actress who, the voice actress of Tails, and Idris Elba, just a well-famous actor playing as Knuckles. That's just awesome. And like I said, Jim Carrey, Jim Carrey's just a really great actor. I honestly believe he's Eggman or Dr. Robotnik. He plays the character so well. His personality, he is spot on as this character. And at first, I remember when people saw the first movie, they were hesitant towards him. But now I feel like people really do like him as Dr. Eggman because he plays Dr. Eggman well. It kind of reminds me of Raul Julia from the Street Fighter movie. I understand it's kind of like, I feel like it's a so bad it's good movie kind of thing, that I feel, but Raul Julia basically was M. Bison in that movie. Jim Carrey is Dr. Eggman, Dr. Robotnik in this movie. He plays the character. He knows the character's personality. I feel he represents that character well. You don't feel like, you're watching a Jim Carrey performance. You actually feel like you're watching Dr. Robotnik being evil and also being silly. There's a lot of good references in this movie. And of course, we get fucking Supersonic in this movie. I mean, this movie's already, and I understand that's a spoiler, but come on, this movie's like like a while old already. Months have gone by, so I think a lot of Sonic fans have seen this movie. But like I said, it's so good. And of course, and also the song by Kid Cudi, is a pretty damn good song. I remember being in that theater, it was just an incredible experience, like being with B-Dags, seeing Supersonic on screen, and of course, seeing the post-credit end scene for Sonic the Hedgehog 3, where Shadow the Hedgehog is going to be in the next movie. Who's going to voice him? I don't know, just this overall excitement when, I went to go see this movie, and seeing it multiple times. It's a pretty damn good movie. It's a very entertaining movie. And yeah, there are some human stuff, but even the human stuff is not that bad. I mean, they basically revealed Gun in this movie, and anyone who's a Sonic fan knows what, the military gun is. It's kind of like I said, this movie has a lot of nods and a lot of love for Sonic the Hedgehog. And like I said, I'm a Mario fan, but I have a soft spot for Sonic the Hedgehog too. I do love his video games, when they're good, of course, but even some of the bad games I don't find that bad. I'm one of the few people who don't think Sonic 06 is a complete piece of trash. I think it's a very okay game. I think it's like a C+, though I do have to say that Sonic Project 06 is a pretty good thing that I'm hoping gets finished, years down the line. But like I said, I just had so much enjoyment for this movie. I literally loved this movie. I even saw the short that they released on Paramount Plus. Like I said, I feel like this is why this movie is my favorite film of 2022. I just have so much emotion, so much just excitement, emotion, just waiting for the next movie. Like I said, this is why this film, it's not, and do I have to say, but I do have to argue, like I said, honestly, the films that I mentioned before are technically better movies, better made films, better emotional films, but this one just got me more, my personal favorite. This is just a personal favorite movie of mine. And yeah, my personal favorite movie of mine for 2022 is Sonic the Hedgehog 2, 2022. However, of course, there's one thing to mention, which kind of understandably is my argument. I mean, this movie was basically released in the fall of 2022 in the United States. However, Japan, the company that mostly makes these games, didn't get the Sonic movie until the summer of 2022. So, yeah, sometimes there can be an argument, like with the United States saying, hey, you know, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was a pretty damn good movie in the fall, while Japan will say, well, it was a really great summer movie because that's when we got it. And yeah, that movie is called Sonic versus Knuckles in Japan, even though the most of the movie is not about Sonic fighting Knuckles. It's mostly just, I mean, the fight with Sonic and Knuckles only happens for like 5 minutes. 5 to 10 minutes, but that's not even the whole movie, so I don't know why this movie is called Sonic vs. Knuckles in Japan. But like I said, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the live action movie, it's my personal favorite of 2022. And that's my top 10 list for top 10 movies of 2022. I hope you enjoyed it. You possibly got a little bit angry that I included some films that technically released somewhere else. But like I said, these are movies that you guys should definitely go see. You all should really go see these movies because, yeah, they're worth seeing. So yeah, Roger D. Star signing out, and see you all next time.